Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature, Second Amendment stuff, right here on the Michael Duke Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator, and around the world at michaeldukeshow.com on the interwebs. Hello, how are ya? What's going on this morning? How you feeling? It's Friday, which ought to be good in anybody's book. But, you know, hello, Americans. It's Friday. That's what I'm all about. That's what I'm all about today. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Today on the program, we are going to, we're going to dive into it. We're going to talk about stuff that relates to the gun culture, to firearms, to the Second Amendment. It's the one day a week that we dedicate to those topics. And we did that initially because, this stuff used to bleed into my program at every opportunity. Like throughout the week, it would be, oh, hey, we're going to talk about guns again at one point. And my boss was like, dude, can we just kind of contain it to one day? Okay. All right. We can do that. We're all good. We'll do that. We can make that happen. It is, so that's what it is. That's why it came back, and it's all good. We are broadcasting live this morning, not only on the radio, terrestrial radio, across the state of Alaska. We are also simulcasting on, Facebook is working today. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all of it available out on the internet. And you could follow links on my website at michaeldukeshow.com if you want to go find them. Or you could just go to facebook.com/MichaelDukeShow, and that's where it's going to be. So come on down. All right. So I'm not sure. I think, and I hate to say this right now because, I've screwed it up so many times. But I believe that we are going to hear from Chris Chang, Top Shot champion, in hour 2 today. I'll let you know here in just a little bit whether or not that's happening. With the new year, we kind of changed some of our schedules up, and he usually joins us on the first Friday of the month, but I'm not 100% sure. So fingers crossed. We'll hear from Chris Chang, Top Shot champion from season 4 of the show Top Shot in hour 2. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of go over some news stories, and we're going to talk about some history, and we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. And I'm going to open up the phone lines, the Pivotel call-in lines, as it were. And we're going to take some calls and do what we like to call gun Q&A. Now, that's just questions and answers regarding firearms. And as I've said many times on this show, this show is not necessarily orientated. The demographic we're looking for is not necessarily the pro-gun folks. I mean, you're probably listening to it, and you're probably pro-gun, and that's exciting, and I love having you, don't get me wrong. But really, the whole point of this is to kind of reach out into that middle ground where there's people who maybe they don't know really much about firearms. I mean, they're not pro-gun, they're not anti-gun, they're kind of just in the middle. They're gun curious, right? And that's what this show is dedicated to. And so I like to give an opportunity for people who have, maybe they've never fired a gun, or maybe they haven't fired a gun in years, or maybe they just have an interest in it and they want to ask some questions, but maybe you're a little too embarrassed to walk into your local gun store and ask those questions because, nobody likes to look foolish. I mean, I actually enjoy it, but I mean, nobody else really likes to look foolish. They don't want to be seen as the ignorant one. But, at one point in our lives, let's face it, we're all ignorant about something. And asking the questions and getting the information is what you need to do. And that's where Gun Q&A comes in. Because we'll answer those questions for you with this is a judgment-free zone. A zero judgment zone. So even if we've answered the question, if I've answered the question a million times before, we'll answer it again because that's the point. Look, ignorance breeds fear, right? Ignorance breeds fear, and ignorance is curable. Stupidity is forever, but ignorance is curable. And so that's what we're trying to do. We don't want you to be afraid. We don't want you to be afraid. We want you to be respectful of firearms, and I don't mean like you've got to bow down and worship. I mean, you have to respect it as a dangerous tool, just like, if you're using a table saw or a chainsaw or, an excavator or something. I mean, those are dangerous tools. You need to respect them, and that's what we want to do. We don't want you to be fearful, and ignorance breeds fear. And, of course, on top of that, not just the plain old regular ignorance, but on top of that, you've got the mainstream media and the entertainment industry and everybody else putting out all kinds of falsehoods and self-serving, pablum that just gets the masses whipped up and stirred up and just plain old outright lies that we hear from people, both in the news media and the entertainment industry. And it does nothing but incite more fear. That seems to be the point. I mean, we've talked about that a bit, even amongst the COVID stuff. Is that COVID is dangerous? Yes, COVID can kill you. It can hurt you. It can damage you. There's no doubt about it. But wasn't there an inordinate amount of fear that has just been kind of spiked and heaped on top of us over the last 2 years? They want to do the same thing with firearms, and they've been doing it for the last 40, 50, 60 years in this country, and pointing, to the gun as if somehow this tool that if I laid it on the counter here would just remain inert. The building would fall down around this firearm and not do a thing. It takes a person to pick it up and use it. But they anthropomorphize the firearm to suddenly it is the reason why. How many times have you seen it on the TV or something, either in the entertainment world, on your weekly police procedural drama, or even in the news media, after some young thug gets shot, in a home invasion or a carjacking or something. And, the parents come up and they're like, oh, Johnny was a good boy. Johnny, he was a Rhodes Scholar, and he was a primetime athlete, and he was such a good boy. And then one day somebody gave him a gun, and, it turned him evil, I say. But Johnny was a good boy. Well, if Johnny was a good boy, Johnny would not be climbing in through some old lady's window to come in and rob and rape and steal from her or kill her or whatever it is that they were doing. My favorite is the one where you see the mom screaming at the television reporter that, her precious child, her perfect little angel is shot by a homeowner after attempting to break into the house or getting into the house and getting shot in the house. And then they're like, well, they had no right to kill him. He was just there to steal? He was just there. They had no right. They should have called the police. I mean, what? I mean, I'm sorry. You're in my home. You pays your money. You takes your chances, right? Do I have time? I mean, where I live out here, it's like if I called I'm outside the city, right? So, if I called the state troopers, it would take them 20 minutes to get here. Am I going to use polite words and conversation with somebody who wants to come in and steal my stuff or hurt my family or break my, but this is what we see. And this is what is thrown out there all the time. You don't have the right to do that. It should be just the police that do that. No, in fact, you do have you have an inalienable, a built-in, a baked-in, a natural right to defend yourself. And you have a natural right to defend yourself with the tools that are available to you. And so, I mean, that's kind of my whole jam here on Fridays, is that we talk about it. We try and give you the history. We try and give you the basis of all this. And we try to educate. Yes, you have even an obligation, even, Brian. Brian says an obligation even. Yes, you have an obligation to defend yourself. The fact that so many people are like, well, no, that's just the police jobs. Oh, the police should be the only ones that are armed. And, of course, as soon as somebody says that, well, the police are the only ones that should have guns. And then 10 seconds later, they're talking about how the police are evil and racist or misogynist or misandrous or whatever, and they should be defunded. In the whole, I mean, there's such a dichotomy with this. People holding these two viewpoints in their head. Only the police should have guns, but police are evil and racist, and we should defund the police at the same time. How can you hold those two viewpoints in your head at that? I mean, I just want to scratch my head sometimes. Just want to scratch my head. But that's what Firearms Friday is all about, right? Firearms Friday is all about that. So phone lines are open. The Pivotel call-in line right now at 433-3150, 433-3150. Feel free to give us a call today if you want to be part of it. If you want to call in and join us, we would love to hear what you have to say. Just ring us up and let's do it. You can also drop me an email if you want to do if you have a firearms question or something, and maybe you're even too shy just to call in anonymously on the radio. You don't want anybody to hear your voice or whatever. Just send me an email, me@michaeldukeshow.com, me@michaeldukeshow.com, and that's where you go to leave us to leave us a message or whatever. Just put question in the top. So there's a ton of different stories today. There was a story that I was going to get into that talked about YouTube and shadow banning and some of the things that are going on with folks who are out there in the gun culture. But look, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. We've seen that on my program. I can no longer put in the video description on my YouTube or on my Facebook channel. I can no longer put Firearms Friday as the headlines for today because it immediately means that notifications won't go out to about 75% of the people that want to follow the show because Facebook's algorithm doesn't like the word guns, doesn't like the word firearms, doesn't like, I've kind of danced around it. We call it golf, which is golf, by the way, stands for Guns Our Last Freedom. Okay. So we talk about a little golf. It's Golf Friday, right? So that's the joke around here, but we've already seen it. And there's more and more stories coming out now talking about the demonetization of channels on YouTube that have been around for years that do nothing but talk about firearms. They're not doing anything evil like we're showing you how to build full automatic rifles or we're showing you how to bypass the law or we're showing you – no, I mean, these are just simple channels that are just like review channels to say, here's a new firearm that's coming out. Here are its benefits. Here are its pros and cons. And, these are channels that have been around for decades. I mean, the Hickok 45 and Demolition Ranch and some of these other ones that have been Iraqi Vet 88. I mean, these guys have been around for years. And yet now you're starting to see them be demonetized and they're exploring other platforms and everything else. And it's kind of a sad statement. Although, again, these platforms are private entities and they have the right to do what they want on their own platform. We have got to get smarter about how do we continue to put that information out there and get as much traction as we can. My solution is to broadcast on multiple platforms at the same time because I figure if one goes down, the other ones will still be there. And I'm going to continue to add other platforms to this. I'm going to add a fourth platform to my simulcast here in the near future. I don't know which one yet because some of them are easier to use than others, and some of them have a better following than others. But I mean, this is the battle we fight right now. This is the battle we fight as far as in the space of being pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun culture people, is that the elites, the people who are in power, the people who have got the systems in place to disseminate information, the majority of them are against what we stand for. And so we're going to have to find new ways to get this information out of there. So anyway, this is all what Firearms Friday has been about. That's the whole thing. That's everything. I got some news stories I'm going to dive into. We're going to talk about those here in just a second. Willie Waffle is coming up at the end of the show today. Willie is going to be joining us at the very end. We're going to be hitting on all the entertainment news as well, which is my fun way to end the weekend. I know some of you don't care about that stuff, but I enjoy it. And Willie's going to come on, and we'll ease ourselves into the weekend with that. So make sure you come on out and check that out as well. We will be back with more. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking gun radio. It's Firearms Friday, my friends. It's Friday.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Look at that in the break. Made it all the way through. Facebook is still up and running. I don't know what to say. It's still working this morning. Oh, man. You guys. Okay, so I saw somebody mention the Freedom Rally in Fairbanks, Freedom Convoy this Sunday, starting at the Carlson Center. Barbara, somebody sent me an email on this, and I was going to read it this morning, and I don't see it. Where is it? Is this it? No. Somebody sent me an email asking me to mention it, and I don't see where the email is now. I had a lot of emails yesterday that I was dealing with. Is this it right here? No. Okay. Anyway, I'll try and Barbara, if you want to give me all the details on that again. Other than it's at 3 p.m. at the Carlson Center. If you got any other details, Interior Patriots. Yeah, I don't know where I saw the email yesterday. I'm like, okay, I'll mention that tomorrow. And then all of a sudden I couldn't find, whoops, dang it. Come here. Come back here. Too many windows up. Here we go. Let's see, is this one it? Here it is. I found it. I found the email. Okay. Got it. I'll post that one up here. I'll talk about that one here in just a minute. We'll do that as well. Moon River. What else is going on here? Firearms, says Henry, are no different than a knife and a hammer, a car, or another tool. The problem is having Holly weirdos and lefties who are the least accountable individuals on the planet convincing people the gun, the car, the hammer is the problem, not the Alec Baldwins of the world. Sorry, I got to take this off. It's a little warm in here this morning. It warmed up, and I got decided to wear my Winter Salmon Derby hoodie from Homer today, which is nice and toasty. All right. Whew, that's better. Okay. And you're 100% right. Firearms are no different than any other tool. They can be used or misused. We've seen people go to town with hatchets and machetes and bows and arrows and knives and cars and all those things. It's no different than anything else. And that's what we're trying to press home here on this, is that it is no different than anything else. It's a tool like any other. You can't blame the tool for the actions of the individual. That would be like blaming the truck for the drunk driver, right? Or quite honestly, that'd be like blaming Jack Daniels for the drunk driver. Jack Daniels is a legal, lawful product, a substance. It's not on them to police your use of it. If you can't hold your liquor and you want to climb in your truck, it's neither Ford Motor Company's nor Jack Daniels' fault that you couldn't control yourself. That's the truth 100% right there. All right. If parents raise their children with moral scruples and a conscience, they wouldn't have to worry about them getting shot. That's true. That is true. Let's see. Self-preservation is not allowed when someone wants to put the skids to your life. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. You know, they shouldn't be surprised when you respond with overwhelming, absolute violence when they want to take something from you, your life, your children, your livelihood, your things. Yes, that's exactly it. They should not be surprised. So, okay. What else? Oh, they're also meeting up at the Lions Club in Wasilla at 3 p.m. So everybody's doing and there's a convoy in Anchorage too. All right, well, where's the convoy in Anchorage, and I'll announce all three at once. How about that? We'll get them all done at once. Hey, do me a favor, please like and share this video. Also, if you haven't, let me post the link one more time. Go over to my YouTube channel where this video is playing, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Would you do that? That's a good place to go in case Facebook doesn't work anymore. Here we go. Jumping back in. Okay. We were just having this conversation about, Henry in the chat room said something about, the tools, that all these tools that we're talking about are just that. They're tools. Firearms are no different than a knife, a hammer, a car, or another tool. The problem is having all the folks out there who appear to be the least accountable individuals on the planet trying to convince people that the gun, the car, the hammer, or whatever is the problem, and not the, Alec Baldwins of the world. You know, some of the things that we see ascribed to firearms, some of the blame that seems to get laid on firearms, and I was talking earlier about little Johnny who, decided to live the thug life and jump into somebody's house to steal their stuff or hurt their kids or whatever it was, and gets blown away. That people are just shocked, I tell you, that happened. And that somehow it's the gun, it becomes gun violence, and now it's the guns problem. If we just didn't have all these guns, it wouldn't have been. No, Johnny would have been using something else, a ball-peen hammer or a baseball bat or a machete, because Johnny was a thug. That was the problem. But I liken it to say, again, just like I did a second ago during the break, that that's like saying, coming to somebody who's a drunk driver and plows into a bus with a bunch of kids, and you're going to sue Ford Motor Company because he was driving a Ford pickup truck, right? Or he was good, or, better yet, even Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels, we should sue Jack Daniels because he was drunk and driving a Ford pickup truck. I mean, Jack Daniels and Ford both make a legal, lawful product. It is not on them. It is not behooving to them to monitor the behavior of people who take their product and misuse it. You just don't see that. You don't see people saying, well, he got pulled over for drunk driving for the fourth time, and he ran somebody off the road, so we need to write a letter and sue Ford Motor Company because they provided him with a truck. Or sue Jack Daniels because, that was his drink of choice. No, what do? They go after the person. They go after the person that's actually doing bad things. That's the whole point. Anyway, what was this? There was an announcement I was going to make. So you all heard about the big freedom convoy that's going on in Canada, right? I mean, this still standoff is still going on in Ottawa. They've got another thing at the border where they've got trucks blocking the border. And this is all, of course, to support the revocation of the COVID vaccine requirement for truckers in both Canada and the U.S. Well, they're starting to get in the act here in Alaska. Up in Fairbanks, the Interior Patriots are putting on a freedom convoy starting at 3 p.m. at the Carlson Center. Apparently, they got people coming from Delta and Healy and everything else. So if you want to participate in the freedom convoy, 3 p.m. at the Carlson Center. They're also holding one at in Wasilla, which is at I guess they start at the Lions Club in Wasilla. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but at the Lions Club in Wasilla, and they will start there at 3 p.m. And apparently there's one apparently the Anchorage one is going to Wasilla and then up the park. So I don't know exactly where. But there's a lot of freedom convoys going on. There's one in the Kenai, too, at 2 p.m. Everybody is taking a trip on the trucks. Everybody's doing a freedom convoy this Sunday. All right, so just wanted to get that one out there so you guys are aware of it and know what's going on. You can go check it out. And I'm sure folks will post up in the chat room all the links to the various things that you want to go do. All right, I want to get into some headlines, but it is gun Q&A all day, so we've got some of that stuff coming up. So let's jump over to the phones, and we'll see what you guys have to say. We'll start off over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Welcome to Firearms Friday.
Hi, Mike. Jeff from Homer.
Hey, Jeff.
See you this morning, and I have to think about 8 or 9 years ago, I guess it was, we put constitutional carry into Maine, and I was one of the big deciding. I got to testify for a whole hour, and I went into guns with them, and I said, look, everybody give me just a $50 bill here, and I'll walk out of here. I'm at the State House in Augusta, and I'll buy you some illegal guns. How many do you want? All right. I don't even need to take my truck, and I guarantee I can do that. I've already checked it. I said, you guys harp about all this stuff, and, it's like I said, I can take a gun, put it downstairs on a chair with a piece of wood, leave my house. When I get back, the wood's not going to jump in the stove and heat my house, and my gun's not going to kill anybody, all right? So, but what I also went into with them is, all of these people that are bad people, all right? Now, you go back up into Aroostook County, you don't see that many shootings up there. Matter of fact, you don't see any.
Right.
Because those people from what I call the concrete jungle will not come up there. They're scared to death to come up there because we got beards and guns,
Well,
and
I
the
remember
is those people will never leave that city, and they're always going to be in those gangs. And the last people that'll be left there in those cities when all this crap's done now will be those gangs.
Right. Well, I remember watching a video with John Stossel, who a lot of people know who John Stossel is. He was an ABC reporter, and he's really is a libertarian, and he did a video here about I think it was 10 or 12 years ago where he interviewed a bunch of criminals in prison. These were all violent criminals, and he was asking them a bunch of questions, and he asked them a handful about guns and firearms and that kind of stuff. And, his first question was, what's the thing that scares you the most? You guys who are robbers or criminals or burglars, what's the scariest thing? And the scariest thing to them, first of all, was a homeowner who had a gun. That's the thing that scared them the most, somebody who could fight back. And that led to questions about firearms and everything else. And then he was like, so this gun control and everything else. He said, how long, if you left here today and you were released today, how long would it take you to get a gun? And the consensus after the whole conversation, they said like 90 minutes they could go get a gun. And it's like,
or less.
Yeah, or less. It's just, you're right. It bad people are going to do bad things. We call them criminals for a reason, right? Because they break the law. That's the whole point.
But the whole deal is I did a study in there too, and I asked a lot of questions. Alcoholics couldn't wait to get out to get a drink, and people that had committed gun crimes couldn't wait to get out and get an illegal gun, or two or three or four. They don't just buy one; they have a lot of them. And it's what I've seen now. I can tell you where there are more places to go buy guns, untethered, we'll call it, than there are places to go buy guns brand new.
Right.
Okay, or used at any places. So, and they've drove guns and cash on the ground. There's more cash around. People pulling their cash out of the bank. They're not putting it in the bank. You know, they're keeping it. There's more guns around, and you know, people will survive all of this that's going on. And I feel that it's going to be a big change in November. I feel that the country's not going to forget what's going on right now. And as far as fighting gun laws, we have to do it all the time. It's going to be an age-old thing, even for my grandkids. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But the difference between you and I and the people that live in those concrete jungles is we brought up with guns, and it's more a way of life than it is something to just buy. And their way of life is being in a gang shooting people. Okay, big difference between them, you and I, and most people around here, most all the people around here. And if you brought a gang in here, they wouldn't last a whole month. They'd freeze to death first. Now's the time to bring them. They'd go right back home. And they wouldn't stay here because grizzly bears, you know, will just eat them. And they don't, that scares them. And they want to be in a controlled environment where they have control. And that's most criminals, when it boils right down to it and you study them, that's what they want. They want to have that control, okay,
sure,
of everybody, everything. I can break into your house, scare you.
Sure.
I don't even have to shoot you. I just point this thing at you.
Well,
I always get a big kick out of the movies when they shackle the gun after they've held the guy for 10 minutes. They go, he didn't have a bullet in it, you know?
Right. Well, I mean,
drives me nuts.
Look, we've seen statistically that there have been gangs up here. There have been bad people that have come here. But you're right. The majority of them are urban jungle kind of people, and they don't want, you know, they wouldn't be as comfortable in a place like, you know, Fairbanks or Homer or even Anchorage or something like that. But there still are bad people out there. The bottom line is that you have to take responsibility for your own safety, and you have an obligation to defend yourself and those around you if that's what it's all about. So yeah, I agree with you, Jeff.
You know, it's a total math problem. If there's 3 crimes on your area and there's only 2 officers on, someone's not going to get an officer, and you're going to be a long time getting there anyways. And the police always get there long after the crime happens.
Right.
They're rarely in the right place at the right time because they just can't be, you know.
Well, look, I remember back in the day, Paul Harvey, one of my all-time heroes. Paul Harvey had a little bit where he talked about police and number of police per capita, and they named North Pole, Alaska, which is a suburb of Fairbanks, right? They named North Pole, Alaska as the place that had the most police per capita. Now, North Pole, for those of you who don't know, if you blink, you miss it as you go through. It's a very, very tiny town. It really probably doesn't even need to be a town, but it did, and it had a police force. And they were saying that per capita in the United States at one point, North Pole had more police per capita than any other city in the nation. And it was something like 1 police officer for, I think it was just under 1,000 residents. But the average in places like New York City and other places, it's like 1 police officer for every 2,000 people. So yeah, waiting for the cops to show up and saying, well, it should only be the police that should do that. You know, the police are not there to stop crime. That's not their purview. Their purview is to solve the crime after the fact. I mean, it may say on the side of their police cars, it may say to protect and serve. Well, they're only going to protect it if they are standing right there when it happens. You know, it's the old axiom of, you know, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. Even a good response time is something under, 8-9 minutes. But if you need to be able to defend, you've got to take responsibility for that. That's the whole point of this. Jeff, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much. I want to get to this story, but now I'm up against the break. All right, so we'll be back in just a moment. The phone lines are open. The Pivotel call-in lines at 433-3150, 433-3150. We'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. We will continue. We've got some headlines up next, more phone calls, potentially Top Shot champion Chris Chang, and, of course, Willie Waffle. It's the full meal deal here on Friday. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking gun radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. In the break here. When and where are the trucker rallies? 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. on Sundays in Fairbanks, Wasilla, Kenai, and Anchorage. Robert, I don't know where the one from the Anchorage leaves from, but it'll all be on Sunday. In Fairbanks, it's leaving from the Carlson Center. In Kenai, it's leaving from Walmart at 2 p.m. It's leaving from the Carlson Center at 3 p.m. in Fairbanks. And there you go. Kenai, Walmart, 2 p.m. on Sunday. Yep. Doty says, I loved Paul Harvey. Man, I did too. You know, I mean, there was a guy that, I just admired so much as a storyteller, you know. Even Paul Harvey, news and comment. It was just so amazing, you know. And nothing put a smile on your face like hearing, "Good morning, Americans. It's Friday. Stand by for news." Right? Wasn't that like that? Was just like, that was the beginning of the weekend. That was the beginning of something good right there. Oh, I remember that so much. All right. Well, here's the thing, guys. Do me a favor. Would you like and share this video? And would you like and follow, if you haven't already followed the show page at facebook.com/Michael Duke Show. You should be able to just hover over my name there where it says the Michael Duke Show is live now. You should be able to just click on that and hover over it and hit follow. That would be the best way. Secondly, because we've had so many problems with Facebook. By the way, did you see the news this morning? Facebook apparently is going to take a bath. They're about to lose something like $196 million in valuation this morning. They have really taken they're taking a bath. Anyway, but if Facebook doesn't work, might I suggest that you follow the link that I just put up in the chat room? No, really, I just put it up in the chat room. Come on. Where is it? Why is it not? There we go. Try that one more time. There you go. And now you know the rest of the story. There's the link in the chat room. That follows you over to YouTube, which I'm simulcasting right now on YouTube. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. And so therefore, you can it doesn't matter if we're not on Facebook one morning or something doesn't work or breaks. You always have another option. You can go out to YouTube. And then there's another one on Twitch if you want to go out on Twitch. I suppose I could put that link up in the chat room too. Twitch. Twitch.tv/ it's my own deal. I'm trying to remember. Where is it? Right here. Oh, I found it. It's right there. Twitch.tv. And no. Give me the other one. Yes, that one. Michael Duke Show. Okay. And it is up and running. Is it going right now? I think it is. I'm never on Twitch. It's like I hardly ever do anything on Twitch. But look, it's up right now. Okay. It's live right now. Click here to reload player. Oh, there we go. It doesn't, I don't know why. It's not, the video download was canceled. We got one person watching it though. I don't know what can I share it? Can I edit it? Can I share it? Anyway, it's Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Michael Duke Show. So if you want to find out, there you go. Right there. And there we go. So if you want to find it all out, there it is right there. And apparently I don't know, it just doesn't like what's going on with my apparently I can't watch it while I'm broadcasting. It keeps popping up and then it keeps crashing. So I can't be watching and broadcasting at the same time. But it's up right now. So if you want to go check it out on Twitch TV, you can. All right. So anything else? What else you guys want to talk about this morning around guns? What do you guys want to do? On February 7th, the Matsu Planning Commission is reviewing a proposal to repeal the outdoor shooting facilities. Brian, you and I have talked about this before. Why don't you call in and talk to us a little bit about this, Brian? Because I'll be honest with you, I've not been paying close enough attention to this to sound halfway intelligent on it. I know a little bit about it, but just a little bit. If you have been, you want to announce and remind people that they need to show up next week, would you call in this morning and give us the rundown on it real quick? I'm crowdsourcing. I'm crowdsourcing this stuff right now. If you would do that, that would be fantastic, Brian. 433-3150. Okay, coming up on the break, again, like it, share, like it, follow, subscribe and hit the bell, do the thing, do all the stuff. Let's do it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go. Okay, welcome back. Firearms Friday. Gun Q&A all day. Phone lines are open for that at 433-3150. Been some chatter in the chat room here about a meeting coming up on 7th of February, which is what, next Tuesday? Next Monday. This next Monday, the Matsu Planning Commission is reviewing a proposal to repeal Ordinance number 17.68, outdoor shooting facilities. Apparently, a year or so ago, they passed an ordinance to prohibit construction of new shooting ranges. And I asked Brian to call in. I think this may be him over here. Let's see if this is. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Brian calling you from the Hook.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for calling in, my friend. I know you've been following this issue pretty closely, and I'll be honest, a little shamefaced, but I have not been following it that closely. I got a lot of things going on, but I know that this was a big deal back in the day because they were working on. There's been several shooting ranges that were kind of in the works, and then the Matsu Borough stepped in and kind of created a bit of a conundrum. So tell us about originally what it was, and tell us what this meeting on next Monday is going to be covering.
Okay, so I guess a little bit of the background here is that 2019, some folks in my community talked to then the assembly person to creating an ordinance that would prohibit the creation of new shooting ranges within a certain class. It didn't necessarily affect private property, but if you wanted to do a for-profit or an educational or whatever shooting range, new construction would be prohibited pending establishment of criteria by the borough for this sort of shooting range.
Right.
And then it would have had to go through a conditional use permit by the borough to create these shooting ranges. So it went back and forth, finally got shoehorned into the assembly and passed. So that's what that ordinance refers to. It's not, as somebody in the chat room said, seems to think that it's kind of the other way around. No, this ordinance prohibits creation of new shooting ranges. So they now have before the borough or through the planning commission, I guess ultimately they're going to rule on this motion to repeal this, and then things will go back sort of the way they were. This is kind of, to my way of thinking, a little bit of a mixed bag. On the one hand, if you have an established procedure, if you have established ordinance, if you have established rules for creating shooting ranges, the borough will create a conditional use permit, which is the same mechanism they use to create and allow for marijuana establishments to go into communities.
Right.
So conditional use permits, and for some other things too. So if it's a thing, conditional use permit is a thing that the borough creates, that means the borough has to defend it. So if you want to do a shooting range right now, you can go out and, assuming this ordinance is repealed, you can go out and you can build one, but you don't have any protection of law. So if you don't have any protection of law on this thing, that means it's very hard for an individual or a group of individuals or a corporation to get insurance, to have any sort of identity that's protected by law. So it kind of goes both ways on this. And
right.
What the borough really needs is a good commercial grade shooting range where people can actually go out, practice safely, have some distances, have some good, well-constructed targets, opportunity to really practice your Second Amendment rights. I mean, bearing means carrying, to my way of thinking, and owning them is one thing. But if you're not using them, if you're not permitted to practice and become proficient, it's kind of a pointless.
Right.
It's kind of a pointless endeavor having to bury your, keep them all in the safe and can't go out.
Right, exactly. It's a glorified club at that point. I think part of the problem with this, if I remember correctly, is that they were having a real hard time coming up with the guidelines, right? I mean, they originally passed the ordinance, and then they were supposed to pass the guidelines to say, this is what a commercial range would look like, and this is what we do, so that you could get the conditional use permit. But if I recall correctly, they were having a real hard time kind of weeding out and selecting what the actual guidelines were. Is that not the case, or am I misremembering that?
That they did come up with a set of guidelines, and some people think they're unreasonable, others don't. It's kind of a matter of, I guess, interpretation. I think they went out to NRA. I think they looked at some of the guidelines that DOE puts together for some of their shooting ranges, and it's a very expensive endeavor to build a quality shooting range. I've actually bid on a job for expanding the city of Anchorage's police range.
Right.
I got done and I looked at the bottom line of this thing. I go, holy cow! I got beat rather handily on that number, but it's an expensive undertaking to build a quality shooting range. They do have, I think there are some guidelines. A lot of people, like I say, object to them, 1,300 feet or whatever away from a dwelling or whatever. But if you find a tractor line, you get the conditional use permit, you put it together, it's there. It is platted. It has a purpose. So somebody can't say, well, I didn't know that there was a shooting range there when I
right.
built my house there.
Right, because there's a thing it's recorded in the plat. Right, they can't later on go, well, I had no idea this was happening, because the borough was already given its blessing, so they can't come back after the fact and try and put you out of business. Right.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer necessarily on this. I think that the way the borough went about it was a bit political.
Yeah.
If you find that surprising. But it was just kind of the whole mess was kind of ugly. There was a lot of unhappy people in my community over this. There's a lot of division and sort of infighting, and people pissed off at each other for years on this whole thing. And I think cooler heads need to prevail, and people need to think of this as sort of in a more holistic approach.
Right.
But I just want to throw that out there. There's an opportunity to go down and comment on it. The turnout from the gun community last time was fairly muted, probably not as representative of the overall population of gun owning and gun practitioner community in the borough as I would have expected.
Right. Okay. Well, it's good to know. So it's going to be again on Monday, the 7th, probably 6 p.m. or something at the Borough Building. Is that where it's at?
Yeah, I think it'll be at the Borough Building. I think you can also do this whole thing telephonically, or by Zoom or whatever it is called. I stuck the link in your chat room. take a look at it. If you feel so led, go down. Think about this real well. Think about the pros and cons. Go down and throw your 25 cents worth of info in there.
Yeah, throw your nickel in, see how it does. All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for giving us your input on this. And like I said, it's definitely an interesting situation. I mean, we do need more good gun ranges in this state, and it'd be nice to have outdoor and indoor gun ranges. It's just they're just not they're not easy to build. As you said, it's very expensive, not an easy thing to build or to maintain and run. So good point. Thank you, Brian, for calling in.
That's it. You betcha.
All right, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Thank you for being part of it today. 433-3150, 433-3150 if you would like to sound off. Now's the time to do it. We were talking about, gun control folks and some of the things that are said, some of the lies that are perpetrated. I mean, I've had an axiom on this program forever that basically said, look, gun grabbers are going to lie because they can't, and it may be small lies, it may be big lies. I mean, the biggest lie that we continue to hear is that, all these people, 30,000 people a year are killed by guns, and it's the gun violence and everything else. I mean, they never tell you that in that 35,000 or 37,000 people per year. First of all, as a statistical moment, and again, I don't want to belittle the death of anyone, but when you're talking about a country that has 340 million people in it and 35,000 people died, that's, I mean, we're down into the less than a percentile kind of area of, right? I mean, that's like right down there in the 1 point, under 1% kind of thing. But at the same time, when we find out that number is in itself a lie, then it becomes even smaller because the actual number of people who are killed, like murdered, like bad juju, like, people who did bad things and got killed for it or were participating in violent crime, when you find out that it's closer to somewhere around 11,000 because the gun control folks have lied and basically included they've included all of the suicides in there as well, you start to realize that there really is some truth to the fact that gun grabbers always lie, or they misinform, or they inveigle, or they deceive, or however you want to say it. We're going to dive into that a little deeper in the next segment, and we'll talk more about it. But, gun grabbers always lying. And we'll tell you why and some of the latest on that in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Kind of shocking when you see them talk about, the gun violence is so horrific in this country. And even if you included suicides, right? Even if you included all the suicides in that, and it's upwards of 38,000, whatever it is. And then you realize when you do a comparison and you realize that 800,000 plus people a year are killed by medical malpractice in one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country. That's when you start going, okay. How big a problem is this? How big a problem really is this in the long run? Now, of course, the news media contributes to any time that there's something that bad happened. And, bad things happen all the time. Bad things happen to good people quite frequently. And bad news sells, and they get the clicks, and they get all the viewerships and the eyeballs and all that kind of stuff. And yet nobody seems to point out the fact that this is a fraction of a fraction. And in fact, violent crime and violent gun crime has been on a 50-year decline in this country. You can look. That's not my statistics. That's the FBI, the DOJ, the Uniform Crime Report. You can go look, and if you graphed it out on a chart, it would be way up here back in the 60s and the 70s, and it would just be down here. Now there's spikes up and down and all that, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, all the stuff that you see coming across that you would think. And I've actually I said this the other day that I had one of my best friends. He's got a friend in Spain who wanted to come over to America to watch some of their both they're both huge WWE fans, right? So wrestling, World Wrestling. And she wanted to come over from Spain to watch it. And her father was just incensed that she wanted to go to America because, it's like, to him, it was like Mogadishu. People shot on every corner and get roaming gangs running the street. And how could you go down to the grocery store for a loaf of bread without wearing your flak jacket and everything? It was a whole thing. But the truth is that as you look at it statistically, you realize that it is nowhere near that bad. And in fact, it's better than it is than it's ever been. So yeah. That's, again, gun grabbers always lie. That's how it works. Okay, Brian just posted the Matt Nuskas is sitting in a burrow thing. That's the ordinance under the question. Thank you, Brian, for posting that in there. People can read up on it and make their voice be heard, and they can listen in. And again, that meeting is going to be on the 7th, which is Monday. I think it's 6 p.m. I think is when it's going to be up there. I didn't download the agenda to look at it, but that's normally when they start, is at 6 p.m. I just downloaded the agenda because I could. Let me see what it says here. Matt Nuska Planning, regular meeting, 6 p.m. Yep, there you go. Telephonic testimony. They've got Facebook Live and everything else. So you can call in to testify as well. And you'll automatically be muted and you can listen. All right. Your line has been unmuted. Okay. That's the agenda. All right. What else? What are you guys doing this weekend? Anything fun? We're in the break. I don't want to necessarily talk about all the gun stuff that I want to talk about later, but what are you guys planning on doing this weekend? I'm going to get some sleep. I have been a little remiss in my sleep schedule this week. Been getting up extra early and working extra long. And I'm starting to feel I just can't do it, man. When I was a kid, and I guess I say kid, when I was younger and married, when I first met my wife, I was working 3 jobs at the time. I'd work like 2 days straight and then sleep for 12 hours and then come back and do it again. And today I just can't do that. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. I could only survive on 6 hours of sleep, for so many days before I got to lay down for 14 or 15 hours. That's the kind of crazy stuff that goes on out there. So I'm going to be doing some sleeping this weekend. I'm sure I've got a few honeydew things to do. And then my kids they're banging on me for a new D&D campaign. We just finished up the one last week. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. We just finished up the other one, and now they're excited about starting a new one. So Dad better get on the stick and get all of his stuff together because I got a lot of stuff to do. I got a lot of stuff to do. Brian says he needs to catch up on building projects and the house needs vacuuming. Dang, that just sounds boring, man. But you got to do what you got to do. Luckily, I flogged my kids into doing the household chores. That way I don't have to. That makes it easy. And they take care of that for me. So that's one benefit to having those kids at home. Shovel the driveway, vacuum the stairs, clean the bathroom, call me when you're done. Builds character, right? Builds character. That's what I remember. That's what it's all about. Of course, you remember being a kid when your mom said clean your room, and you're like, okay, and then you drug it out all day when you could have cleaned the whole thing in an hour, and instead you drug it out all day long. Yeah, I remember that. Just get it over with, man. Just get it over with. Okay. Well, it's time to jump back into it here. Hour 2 is dead ahead. I suppose I should send a text message to my friend Chris Chang. Make sure he's going to be joining us. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio. Here we go.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday. That's right, my friends. Your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator, or around the world at michaeldukeshow.com on the internet. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Lots of good discussions here in the last hour about some local stuff, some national stuff, and now we're going to dive down into the 2A headlines from around the state. I just got confirmation Chris Chang, Top Shot champion Chris Chang, is going to be joining us next week, and he's going to come on board, and we're going to hang out on next Firearms Friday. So that leaves this hour mostly open. Willie Waffle will be joining us at the end of the segment, or the end of the show in the final segment, and we'll be doing our weekly entertainment review. Yeah, that's the good stuff right there. That's going to be fun. And I hope you enjoy that. I hope, I know some of you fall off or are probably not listening, but I really enjoy that final little, it's just more lighter side, right? It's just a little bit more lightening of the thing. And then I get to mock Willie for liking some of the things that he likes, because that's fun too. It's what happens when your friend comes on and hangs out with you. So Willie and I are going to get into that here in the final segment of the show today. But in this first 2 segments, phone lines are open. The Pivotel call-in line at 433-3150 if you would like to sound off for gun Q&A. We're happy to oblige. Happy to oblige on that one. Come on in and be part of it with us this morning. We're also I was going to mention this too, and I should have mentioned it. I should have mentioned it earlier, but I didn't because bad radio host. We are going to be starting a new way to communicate with the show. Not only can you again be part of our, you can be part of the chat room by going over to Facebook or YouTube or whatever and following along with the simulcast there. Not only can you drop me an email, me at michaeldukeshow.com, not only can you call in on the Pivotel call-in line at 433-3150, but we're working out a way right now to where you can text into the show on the Bivvy text line. That's right. The Bivvy Stick is the latest sponsor of the show. It is what they call a short burst data device. And that's a fancy way of saying it turns your cell phone into a satellite communications device. And we had the folks from Bivvy on yesterday, Vance Cook and Seuss Edmondson, to talk about this thing. I just got to tell you, for those of you who have listened to me talk about like the Pivotel satellite phone and everything else, and you're like, well, that just does too much, or it's too expensive, or I'd love to have it, but I just don't know. Well, you could take this intermediate step, because the Bivvy Stick is $199, and their plans are as low as $14 a month if you want to be able to do it. This little tiny device, which is about 2 inches by 4 inches, it's about the third the size of my cell phone, connects to your cell phone with an app, either iOS or Android, and then it gives you the ability to send text messages, emails, to check weather forecast, including marine and aviation and regular weather forecasts, to be able to drop and pin your location down so that anybody who's been tracking you, like your spouse or something, if you're out and about hiking or fishing or biking or snow machining or boating, they will know where you are. And it basically gives you communications with the rest of the world, no matter what's going on. It's got 5 days of continuous battery life with a regular 10-minute tracking usage. You get 5 continuous days, and it gives you that peace of mind. We talked about disasters, earthquakes, windstorms, or anything else. A lot of times those cellular, and who has house phones anymore? I don't have a house phone anymore. I've got a lot of cell phones, but not a house phone. So what happens when the cell tower gets shut down, or because of some kind of event or something happening, the congestion is just overwhelming and you can't get through? Well, I just link my phone to my bivvy, and I can send text messages and emails to people outside of the affected area to tell them, hey, I'm okay, or hey, here I am and I need help, or whatever. It's just right there. It is, versus the competition with the cost of entry, the monthly fees, and the continuing expanding features, which I talked a little bit about one of those expanding features. Apparently, I jumped the gun. I wasn't supposed to talk about it. But there's some cool features coming that I've talked about in the past. And yes, that will be, for you and your friends, it will be some cool stuff. And they're constantly making changes. So you need to check out the bivvy. Like I said, I'm buying one for my wife. I've got one now. I'm buying one for my wife so she can throw it in her glove box. So if there is an emergency and we're apart, we can always still get a hold of each other no matter what's going on. And that is, again, the peace of mind. I mean, at $199 and $14 a month, I'm all about that jazz right there. No problem. Find out more about Bivvy by going to satellitewest.com/Bivvy, or you can go to one of the local dealers, Arctic Fire and Safety in Fairbanks, London Marine Electronics in Dutch Harbor, Safe and Sound in Anchorage, Wasilla, or Soldotna, Communications North in Seward, Radar Alaska in Kodiak, and South Central Radar on the Spit. Any one of those folks can give you all the information you want about your bivvy stick. Easy and affordable. And like I said, we're going to have the new bivvy text line for the Michael Duke Show here pretty quick, where you'll be able to text me and it'll come up right here on my phone, because my phone will be linked to my bivvy. Well, it is linked to my bivvy. It's in my coat pocket. So there you go. But we're going to be rolling that out next week. So that'll be fun. It's some pretty cool stuff. So thank you to Bivvy for sponsoring the program. That was the whole point of that. Okay. What else we got going on here? Let's get into the headlines. We were talking before the break about how gun grabbers always lie. I mean, they always lie. Right? Whether it's the number of deaths by gun violence, which turns out to be inflated by over 2/3 because they like to include the suicide deaths in the gun violence numbers. I mean, again, not that maybe all of those people wouldn't have killed themselves if they didn't have access to a gun, but I mean, if you've made a decision to kill yourself, does it really matter what way you do it? Whether you drink a bunch of pills, whether you hang yourself, whether you jump off a bridge or dive in front of a train. I mean, they're all horrific. They're all horrible. But does it really matter if you don't have access to a gun? I mean, Japan's got one of the highest suicide rates in the world, and they have almost no guns in private hands. So to include those numbers in the gun violence numbers seems to be just, well, I mean, we'll be polite and say it's disingenuous. But we see it all the time. One of the latest is Shannon Watts. Now, you may not know who Shannon Watts is. She's Moms Demand Action, which is an offshoot of one of Michael Bloomberg's deals, right? She's supported by Michael Bloomberg. She got up on she was doing an interview on the website ELLE, and she was talking about addressing the boyfriend loophole on the L. So she just wants to make she just outright lies. So she says a bunch of bad words that are referencing females. You know, the B word, the W word, the C word, all these are. She goes, these are just some of the words that my fellow Moms Demand Action volunteers and I have been called over the past 9 years. We've become experts on the nexus between misogyny and gun culture because we've lived it in person and online since the day we decided to stand up to the gun lobby. Now, look, anybody who spent any time online, and especially if you've put your head above the crowd and become a commentator or done things like that, you know you're going to get some. I mean, I have gotten some messages sometimes that are, I mean, I've never really shared them because, some people threaten to kill me, my family. They want to kill other people. They hope I die. They call me. I mean, there's all kinds of. It's what happens that is welcome to the internet, right? But just because some people call you those names does not mean that the entire group, and she keeps talking about the gun culture. We've become experts on the nexus between misogyny and the gun culture. Just because somebody calls you a bunch of names does not mean, one, that they're all misogynistic, and second of all, that the entire movement is misogynistic. Then she goes on to say, to be clear, pro-gun activists don't disagree with us because they actually believe we want to take away their guns. They hate us because we're women. I mean, she just didn't leave it like said. She's like, oh, they don't disagree with us because they want to take away their guns. They hate us because we're women. Which, I mean, first of all, hate's a pretty strong word. But I mean, I'm not a fan of Shannon Watts, but I don't hate her any more than I hate, Lisa Murkowski. I don't hate her personally. I don't like her politics. I don't like the things that she's done, but I don't hate. Hate is like, but first of all, if gun culture people hated people like Shannon Watts and Moms Demand Action because they were women, not because they were coming after our guns, but because they were women, then why would we love people like, Dana Lash? Why would we love people like our wives and our sweethearts and our daughters who are in the gun culture? Why would we love, just fill in the blank. Why would we love any of these people if it was really about hating women? But this is, of course, the stuff that places like Elle just laps this up. I mean, this is just exact. Shannon Watts, again, Moms Demand Action, the Bloomberg Group. She runs this thing. She makes big money doing this thing. But she's out there telling you that the reason that they're fighting against her is because she's a woman. And surely she provides some evidence of this, right? She goes on to say, rarely do the men who proclaim themselves defenders of constitutional liberty direct message me about policy. They're much more likely to threaten me with rape or hanging. Gun extremists have told me to go bake a cake, B, and to do what all the other stay-at-home moms do, and to watch TV with a bottle of Chardonnay. I've been told I'm trying to take people's rights away just because I got knocked up once. I mean, does she get those kind? I'm sure she probably does. Again, welcome to the internet. But again, she's not unique about this. I mean, if it's the fact that everybody who's fighting against the gun culture is doing it because they hate women, where does that leave all the women who support the gun rights? I mean, are they the Uncle Toms or the Uncle Tomathinas or whatever it is in today's? I mean, do they? That's right. Barbara says, do we hate ourselves? Apparently, that's the misogynistic streak in all these gun-loving women. That's why. But again, this is just yet another lie that, of course, is spooned up and eaten by all the people who are reading Elle magazine. I mean, when was the last time one of my listeners, female listeners, dialed over to Elle magazine to get into it? Again, preaching to the choir. Preaching to the choir. But she's not the only one. Again, all the president is one of the another one. Oh, I'm up against the break. The president is yet another one. I've got a line on hold, and I'm up against the break, and I want to get to this. Let's take the call real quick here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Jason from Fairbanks, and I'll gladly hold if you prefer.
Yeah, Jason, why don't you hold for me? I appreciate that. Why don't you hold for me? We'll be right back. We're going to talk about this. We'll take Jason's call, and then I will tell you about what the president is saying that is so blatantly false and absolutely at odds with everything else. I don't even know how to respond to it. All right. That's a lie. I do know how to respond to it. With guffaws and everything else. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. In the break. Waiting for the commercials to recycle, and we'll come back to this. It'll be fun. Yes, you'll love it. You'll love it. Jason's on the line. We're going to talk to Jason here in just a second. And am I who? Are you Parafura? Who the hell is Parafuras? Google. Is the main antagonist of the television show Fort Boyard. He's a guardian from a fort from an unknown number of years. He's portrayed by, I am not Pierre Foraz. Nope, not me. Thanks, Thomas, for the question on YouTube. Appreciate that. All right, back to the chat room. The fake president, I just assume everything he says is a lie. L started because Reese Witherspoon's dumb blonde, etc. I mean, L magazine's been around for a while, but again, why, but just this idea that somehow we couldn't possibly object with her on policy. We couldn't possibly just object to what she's doing on the basis of our Second Amendment rights. We are hating on her because she's a woman. That's why. Of course. Knit me a sweater, says Paul. Maybe she's actually gotten a message that says that, Paul. I have no idea. Maybe that's the message that she's got right there. Men gotta love women. All right. We are about 3 minutes out here. Let's go over to Jason and see what he wanted to talk about. So I want to get a little setup on it before we jump back to him when we return to the radio. So let's go back over to Jason real quick. Good morning, Jason. What are we going to chat about?
Well, I thought of an idea while you were talking about all this, about remember how Rush Limbaugh said sometimes it's best to illustrate absurdity by being absurd.
Right.
I got an idea for a film. I got an idea for a film. Just a very short, maybe 15 minutes or so. In fact, Willie Waffle might be able to help recommend someone who could do it, someone like Phelan McAlery, perhaps, in which guns are treated as the defendants in the crimes.
Oh, okay.
All these scenes they could do, and people would, they would laugh, and they'd realize, hey, wait a minute, that's just what our politicians are saying.
Right, exactly.
But it's not the criminals, it's the guns.
All right. Well, hold on, Jason. Let's not shoot the whole wad here. I will come back to you. And yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Let's take that one out. We'll start with that one. How about that? All right. Well, this new level of stupid started in government schools. Yeah. Again, if I needed reason number 576 why I wanted to homeschool my kids, this is probably one of the reasons right there. Jimmy says, I checked out the bivvy at Arctic Fire and Safety in Fairbanks. Smaller than they appeared and light as a phone as well. Pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, it's 100 grams. My cell phone actually weighs more, but, I mean, it's easy. It's handy. It's super cool. Super cool. Again, who is Shannon Watts? She is the founder and the leader of Moms Demand Action, which is an anti-gun group that is going on. Rather, she was the one that was supposedly the whole Million Mom March and all that when there was really only about 10,000 of them. She's funded by Michael Bloomberg. She's his lapdog on that deal. So yeah, that's who Shannon Watts is. People in the gun community are pretty familiar with her. She has said some crazy and outrageous things in the past that just like wow. Yeah, and I guess it's not surprising that she talked about misogyny, since the whole point of the Elle article was gun violence and misogyny and the boyfriend loophole and all. But again, to say basically they hate her and they hate others because they're women, not because their policies are wrong. It has nothing to do with the policies. They don't disagree with us because they actually believe we want to take away their guns. They hate us because we're women. No. And I don't hate you. I just think you're stupid. There's a difference there. I think there's a big difference. You make me tired, and I think you're stupid. And I think your policies are stupid. I don't hate you, and I don't hate you because you're a woman. And I don't think you're stupid because you're a woman. I think you're just stupid because you're stupid. That's kind of where it lays for me. All right, let's go. Back to it. Let's jump in. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the program. The Michael Duke Show. One final segment here on gun stuff. I've got some stories. I wanted to talk more about some of the lies that are being pressed out there and told and what people don't really know or understand. We were just talking about Shannon Watts from Mom Demands Action, who is stupid. I think she's stupid. I don't hate her because she's a woman. I don't hate her at all, but I just think stupidity, right? Jason is on the line calling in from Fairbanks. He has an idea where he thinks what we should do is we should create some short films to highlight the silliness and the anthropomorphizing of the firearms out there. Jason, give me an idea. What are we talking about here?
Okay. Rush Limbaugh, the late Rush Limbaugh, he had a common saying where he would say sometimes it's the best thing to do to beat the other side is to illustrate absurdity, their absurdity in particular, by being absurd oneself, to lampoon it. And the idea I had because I heard the president talk yesterday, and I've heard other politicians like Schumer other times where they talk about the crime as if the gun did it, and people who've called in and talked about I've stared at my gun, cocked and loaded on the table for 2 hours now, and it hasn't done a thing. It doesn't seem inclined at all to jump up. Well, the idea I had was sometimes in political discourse, what people will do is they'll make these short films that illustrate the absurdity. What I'm thinking, like Willie Waffle might be able to help recommend someone who would be willing to do this. Phelan McAleary might be ideal because he's done films sort of like this. But I was thinking of a short film, maybe 15, 30 minutes long, in which guns themselves, which belong to this smarmy-looking criminal, the guns themselves are tried as the defendants in a crime. And the guns are sitting on the table. I'm just some scenes I was just thinking of, like where the judge would say, "How do you plead?" And of course, the guns wouldn't make a sound. And then the judge would say, "Since you have not spoken, the court will enter a not guilty plea on your behalf." And then going all through it, and then at the end of it, if the gun is found guilty, the gun is hanged, quote unquote, by being, having rope tied around it. It falls through a gallows and comes apart. You use a cheap rifle. I wouldn't want to use a nice expensive weapon for that. Or alternatively, where the smarmy guy would be there, waiting, and they would find the gun not guilty, quote unquote, when because he had committed the crime with it, obviously.
Right.
And they say, "Well, sir, here is your gun back," and he says, Thanks, Your Honor. Walks out, and it shows in his mind him thinking of a liquor store a few blocks away that he'd like to knock over. There's all kinds of scenes like that that you could put together, and it would make people realize, they really ought to be. Why aren't they going after the criminals? Why do they keep talking about the guns, the guns, the guns? Guns don't do a thing. It's the person who uses them for good or for ill who causes the crime or defends a life.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is the argument that is basically reductio ad absurdum, right? Reduction to the ridiculous or reduction to the absurd. That's what we're trying to do here. And I think that's a perfect example. Anthony in the chat room adds to it, and he says, this is an amazing idea. He says, let's make a bunch of those devil's lettuce videos where Johnny smokes a joint and turns into a werewolf, but make it based on guns instead, pure comedy gold. I mean, it would really show people that, it's that kind of ridiculousness. But you're right, because that's how people are treated. Oh, it couldn't be little Johnny. It had to be the gun. It's the old Disney movie where Goofy is behind the wheel of a car and Mr. Walker becomes Mr. Wheeler, where he just drives over and crashes into cars and kills people. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And
go ahead.
Yeah. And there's another alternative that would be directly connected with this, because I heard Lars talking about this last night, but I've heard other people talk about this too, where you could do kind of as a corollary to it, some short film where let's say someone takes a neighbor's Ginsu knife, stabs him to death, and the Ginsu Knife Company suddenly gets a letter from the district attorney saying you were being sued because your knife was used in a murder, and they're saying, well, we've never sold these to criminals.
Right, exactly.
And there are possibilities for that. In other words, that would illustrate the absurdity that what Biden was saying yesterday about these guns are the only thing that are exempt from suing people over, and that's not true. I mean, you can't sue Ford, if someone runs over a child, unless it happened because of a fault in the vehicle.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of their big things is they really want to pull back on that the NAACLP, the National Protection of Lawful and Commerce Act. They do not want people they want to reverse that for sure. It's pure stuff. Thank you, Jason. It's a great idea. I appreciate you sounding off on it. And I'd love to see that. I think that would be fantastic because it would be a way to repudiate some of the stuff you're seeing out there. Because again, gun grabbers always lie, right? Gun grabbers always lie. President Biden, in his speech to America here, just was it yesterday, day before, he says, goes on to talk about things like he called one of America's most popular handguns a weapon of war. Futures cut short by a man with a stolen Glock with 40 rounds. He referencing that New York City Police Department officers who were recently gunned down in Harlem. A magazine with 40 rounds, it's really a weapon of war. Okay, so first off, I would just like to point out, cut short by a man with a stolen Glock. So he stole it, first of all. Wasn't legal in law, but he stole it. But to say that a magazine with 40 rounds is really a weapon of war. First of all, I don't think you'll find any conflict anywhere, any modern-day conflict, that has got a 40-round magazine for the pistol, okay? And then he's talking about the Glock. He can't be talking about the magazine, right? So he's got to be talking about the Glock. But they're common firearms. I mean, they are used in militaries, but pretty much every weapon has some kind of, but he goes on to talk about other things, talking about how all the things that they're talking about doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right, which is pure theater. But here is the best part. This is the kicker. This is President Biden yesterday talking about this way. Oh, this shouldn't affect. This is not going to your Second Amendment rights. But just listen. This is President Joe Biden yesterday. Let's try this again. Come on. Oh no. I'm sorry. The video. All of a sudden, the audio couldn't play. See if I can get it to come back up. Come on, man. I really wanted to play this because this was nope. Doesn't like it. All right, so here's what he says. When the Second Amendment was passed, he was talking about how you wouldn't lose this wouldn't hurt your ability to do the Second Amendment. Making sure that people who are not allowed to have a gun don't get a gun in the first place. That doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right. There's no violation of the Second Amendment right to talk like there's no amendment that's absolute. And he says, when the amendment was passed, you couldn't buy a cannon, so there's no reason why you should be able to buy certain assault weapons, which is a lie. When the Second Amendment was passed, you could buy anything. Congress provided for letters of marque, which would basically allow ship captains to fly under the. They owned their own warship with cannons and everything else on it. And, the other one that really sticks out was the Rough Riders, right? That charge up San Juan Hill, Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, they received as a gift from two families in New York, or three families, the Stevens family, the Kane family, and the Tiffany family. They received a gift of two rapid-fire Colt automatic machine guns for use by the Rough Riders to charge up San Juan Hill. Because they didn't have the money, they couldn't afford it. Private citizens bought the machine guns and gave them to the Rough Riders to use. Oh, we didn't mean it for that. They didn't mean you couldn't buy weapons of war. That is such bull. And nobody calls them on it. Nobody. You couldn't own a cannon. I can own a cannon today. Let alone what I could buy back in the day. What? I mean, this whole thing, again, the Rough Riders, they've got it in the freaking museum. They've got one of these Colt automatic rapid-fire potato diggers. They've got them in the museum with the letter from Teddy Roosevelt saying that the Rough Riders that our regiment had accumulated 2 rapid-fire Colt automatic guns, the gifts of the Stevens, Kane, Tiffany, and 1 or 2 others of the New York families. I mean, he oh, my God. Really? You couldn't buy. They didn't intend that. You are so full of crap. And you know nothing about what you talk about. And if this had been an off-the-cuff remark, it may have been forgivable, but this is a prepared speech. Somebody supposedly was supposed to, read up on this and be like, oh, yeah, we know all about this. But Biden, oh, no. It just doesn't. Oh, wait, here. Look, it finally came up. President Biden saying exactly what he thought to the, yeah. Oh, no, it's broken. Never mind. Forget it. Anyway, gun grabbers always lie. That's what they do. That's what they're all about. Oh, man. Trying to get you a little bit of history here. Trying to get back to you on it. That's what the militia was, by the way. Those New York families buying those machine guns and giving them to the... I mean, that's like the whole point of the militia. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
It hurts my head, man. I mean, it hurts my head that are just, and I don't know why this damn thing won't play. Oh, I know why. I bet I know why it won't play. Let me see if that fixes it. I want to play this for you guys because it's just to listen to him. It just, does it work now?
See, this doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right. There's no violation of a Second Amendment right. We talk like there's no amendment that's absolute. When the amendment was passed, it didn't say anybody can own a gun and any kind of gun and any kind of weapon. You couldn't buy a cannon, and when this amendment was passed, and so no reason why you should be able to buy certain assault weapons. But
okay, wait a second. Let's go back here. Let me just
it didn't say anybody that's absolute.
Let me just say right here. Okay, so here we go. Right here.
There's no amendment that's absolute. When the amendment was passed, it didn't say anybody can own a gun and any kind of gun and any kind of weapon.
But what it says is the right to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. It doesn't have to say any kind of gun or any kind of person or any kind of weapon. It said the right and duty of the militia to the security of the free state. What? That's exactly what it said. You have the right to own pretty much anything.
Was passed, it didn't say anybody can own a gun and any kind of gun and any kind of weapon.
It did. It said exactly that. Are you kidding me? That's exactly what it said.
You couldn't buy a cannon, and when this amendment was passed,
the couldn't cannon. Yes, you could. The President of the United States is putting all this right in front of you and saying this is... I mean, that guy is a freaking Muppet, man. Yes, you could buy a cannon. You could buy a whole warship. You could later on buy machine guns. You could buy all that stuff. I mean, it's all there. All there. What a Muppet. And you could still make your own. Not machine guns, but you could still make your own firearms. They haven't checked us yet. Yeah, and not only is he the president, and I know people will cry that he's not the real president, but let's just set that aside. Not only is he a president, he's a lawyer as well. That's what Brian says. Exactly. But, don't worry. I did all the research, and you couldn't buy a cannon back in the day. Forget all that anecdotal stuff and the stuff in the museums and everything else. You couldn't buy a cannon. Forget about the Giardi air rifle that Lewis and Clark took, which was the first semi-automatic rifle that it was. Forget about. Well, you couldn't own that because it didn't say you could own all these different things. It didn't say that you could. What is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? Well, it doesn't play into their deal. Yeah, maybe they should look up the definition of. You keep using that word inalienable. I don't think it means what you think it means. Yeah, I think it means basically hands off, buddy. Any gun, anything else. That's what we had up until 1932. That's when the feds first started meddling in it, and they created the NFA and the tax stamp and all that. Then it got worse at 68, and then it got worse in 86. And it's just, oh, man. Whew. Yeah. Oh, let's go, Brandon. Got to go to one of the dispensaries in town and ask them to give me something to put me into a Biden state. Dude, don't do it. You'll lose your, I don't know if anybody can lose that many brain cells and still live. Like I said, the guy's a total puppet. Muppet. I don't care what it is. I just want, just don't want to know whose hand's up his backside making him talk like that. Oh, all right. Well, we're a minute out. We're about to rejoin here. We got Willie Waffle coming up. We're going to dive into wafflemovies.com and do all the weekend movie reviews. It's all dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Do me a favor. Again, like and share if you would. Nope, that's not the right one. Not the right one. Like and share this video if you haven't already. Don't forget to go out and like and share subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. If you haven't done that already, I'll post that up as well. So in case Facebook goes down, you guys know where to go. That's what you need to do. Do it now. There you go. Jump in. Get her done. Boom. Like and follow the Facebook page, and then subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. Here we go. Willie Waffle, phone's ringing. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Welcome back to the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. All of a sudden, everything just blew up. My phone line quit. My thing's working. I had Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. I'm trying to get him back on the phone. It is. I'm sorry. All of a sudden, it became a complete and total hot mess. I don't know what happened there, but we're gonna continue here, I guess, until see if I can get Willie back on the phone. We're going to continue and see if we can make something work. Phone lines continue to be open at 433-3150. If you want to sound off, now's the time to do it. We'd love to hear what you have to say and give you a chance to be part of the show. I guess we're not going to do, I don't know what's going on. What just happened? My whole world just exploded, and all of a sudden it's not working. I got him on the line, but it's not working. It's not working right. So I don't know what's going on. But feel free to give us a call this morning. We were gonna kill it and do the weekend entertainment review, but apparently now we're just gonna Yeah, it doesn't matter which button I push. It just keeps killing all the audio. So, all right. Well, hi. Final Friday. You go back over here. Look at that. All right, final Friday discussions then. We will just leave the phone lines open and let you continue to talk with us here on the Michael Duke Show for our Fridays. We've got a couple more. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, sorry. Frustrating. Do I still have the music? That's the... Oh, hey, look. I still got... apparently the music still works. So at least something survived. Willie needs a bivy stick. Yeah, that's exactly it. Willie needs a bivy stick and a Pivotel satellite phone. That'll make sure that he always stays in contact with us no matter what we do. All right. Well, phone lines are open if you want to continue to discuss things of a Second Amendment nature right here on the Michael Duke Show. 433-3150, 433-3150. Feel free to give us a call and check in with us and see whatever it is that you want to talk about. A couple more stories that are still floating around on the interwebs in regards to the Second Amendment. Let me go back over to them. The Biden thing is still it's blowing my mind. This guy's president of the United States. He's supposed to be a lawyer. He still can't figure out when he's spouting an absolute lie. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. Hey, in Australia, they're always touting Australia as if it's the end all and be all, right? We should have Australian-style gun control in this country. That's what we should have, Australian-style gun control. And everybody's like, oh, yes. All the talking heads and all the gun control people are, oh, yes, that's exactly what we should have. Because it's worked so well in Australia. We should do forget about the Melbourne shooting. Forget about the fact that they, in Sydney and other major cities, the police departments were busting organized gangs and criminals that were manufacturing machine guns in machine shops and all. Forget about all that stuff. Oh, yes, we should take those Australians. They've got it down right. Really? You think they've really got it down right? I mean, I'm only asking because what are they doing now? I mean, they're having another gun amnesty. What? I mean, I thought there's no guns in Australia. You couldn't. Another gun. A national gun amnesty has been launched again across Australia with holders told to surrender their illegal firearms or face the full force of the law. The 3-month campaign is encouraging people to surrender any illegal guns in their possession and to dob in neighbors, meaning to report neighbors, friends, and family to Crime Stoppers. It's estimated that more than 260,000 unregistered guns are in circulation in Australia. And just to give you a bit of a taste of how many guns that is compared to where they were at before, during their initial, in the late 90s when they did the first amnesty and ban, when they had everybody turn in their guns, they only got in something like 370,000 guns. That was it. So there are almost as many guns they're estimating there's still almost as, what? Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews in Melbourne on Thursday to announce the amnesty said there's no excuse for anyone in Australia to have an illicit firearm. Our message today is simple. Hand it in, she said in a statement. If you surrender it, you can do so without penalty. The alternative is a knock on your door from the police and the potential for serious criminal penalties, including imprisonment. Wait a minute. You guys already had an amnesty. In fact, you didn't have just one amnesty. You had an amnesty in 2016 as well. Oh, and you've had a handful of other gun turn-in events that have been going on, across. This is like 25 years you guys have been doing this. But Australia, that's who we should follow right there, looking at Australia. We turned in this. Not to mention the fact that in America, there's an estimated something close to 1 billion guns, 750,000 to 1 billion guns. And I'll be honest, I think it's probably 1 billion plus. That's just my hot take on it. And then, of course, we've seen everything that's gone down into Australia since the whole COVID thing has gone on, right? Because trust us, you can trust our government. They'll take care of you. Right, they'll They'll make sure that you stay in your homes, and if you're not, they're going to throw you in jail. Strip you away from your kids, throw your kids down and inoculate them against your wills. I mean, they'll do all that. I mean, that's the thing, right? Whew. I mean, but Australia, that's the poster child for what we want. Just shaking my head. All right, back to the phones. Over here we go. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Mike. This is Cyrus out of Vietnam.
Morning, sir.
In reference to using Australia as an example, there's a hidden aspect to this newest amnesty. Right now, they're receiving a lot of pressure from their friends in the CCP. And, of course, the government in Australia is kowtowing to it because in the last 18 months, you've seen them turn back towards China as opposed to kicking back early on during the pandemic. And the reason behind that is they poured a lot of money, as in the CCP has poured a lot of money into Australia to make it easy pickings for when they start their advancement through the Pacific theater. So that's also part of what's happening. And, of course, politicians that are bought off, just like in this country by the CCP. And, oh, by the way, there's some of them in this state. If you don't believe it, just go and look at all the Chinese businessmen that have showed up down in Anchorage and look at all the sweet deals that they're picking up. And they're tied directly to the CCP, so we're not immune from it either. At any rate, that's also what's happening as part of this amnesty, and the big push shows that there's a short timeline on what the CCP is planning. So that's just part of the story, man, and thanks for bringing it up.
All right, well, I appreciate it, Lee. Thanks for calling in this morning to be a part of the program. I mean, yeah, they're facing tremendous pressure. You could see what the Chinese are doing in the South China Sea. You could see they're flexing their muscles against Taiwan and everything else. I mean, I'm concerned about all that for sure, and Australia is right in their path. Absolutely. Let's go back over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi. I think I'd like to classify myself as maybe anonymous illegal.
Anonymous illegal? Okay. There you go.
Yeah, I'm white. You know, I moved here in 74, and I guess you classify me as a dreamer, you know, if you wanted to throw me in there.
Okay.
You know, parents brought me over and everything else. But my big point, I think, will be today is I think the people that we need to elect to Congress and the Senate need to be statesmen. And one of the things that rung true for me today, and I thought about Jefferson, and everyone forgets that Jefferson was a statesman, and George Washington, all of our founding fathers were statesmen.
Right.
They loved this country. And when you think about Jefferson, you know, dealing with the Moors and figuring out how to, you know, we have a supply problem right now.
Right.
Jefferson went over and figured that out, you know, 200 years ago. We need statesmen. We need to elect people who are statesmen. And they're not congressmen, they're not senators, they're not whatever. They should be statesmen. They have our values, their constituents' values in mind. And I love this country. You know, I paid taxes all my life, and I just give it to the government. And fortunately, I'm still here. But I would give up. If this country, I would leave this country if they got, and I don't want to, but I would leave this country if they got their immigration deal right. And
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Anyway, God bless you guys. I know we're about out of time, so.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious. I've got a minute here.
I'm in Fairbanks.
Well, no.
Anyway,
when you say the
illegal, I guess.
Right. No. I'm just I'm just asking. When you say get their immigration deal right, what do you mean by that?
You know what? I mean, bring people. I watched my grandmother and my mother work their butts off to provide for me in New York City, and that's where, you know, Irish and European. I'm probably call me Euro trailer trash, I guess, would be that what I am. But but I watch those two women work so hard, and I've read the Constitution. I've read, I want to throw a shout out to the 5,000 or 4,000 year leap or whatever that is. Books like that bring our country and our people together like they were. I mean, we were united.
Right.
Black, white, Mexican, I don't care what you were, but we were united at one time. And we've been united in many, many ways, and it just seems like it's going the other way.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, there's always
been
some divisiveness in America, whether it was the Irish or the blacks or whoever it was. There was always something. But you're right. Under times of struggle and under times of trial, we usually came together to face it. And I wish we could find a way to do that on a more rational and common basis.
I think we're in a war right now, and we don't realize it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people call it the culture war. I mean, I think...
And I classify myself as an American because I'd fight and die for the principles of this country.
Yeah.
All right. That our founding fathers set up. But anyway, I thank you for taking my call. As first-time caller, I guess I've never tried to call, but it inspires a lot of us.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for calling in. You're right. I think you're right. I think we need more statesmen. And Timothy in the chat room says citizen statements, not career politicians. And I agree with you. I think that's where we've fallen short. The founding fathers never expected. I mean, there are some pretty smart critters, right? I mean, these guys were the geniuses of the time. They never expected this to be all about, the career politician. They expected that the farmers and the lawyers and the doctors and the silversmiths and the plantation workers and anybody who ran and was part of this, they expected them to go do the job of the Congress and to get back and to go back to what they were doing. And unfortunately, that's become something totally different. Career politicians, people who have spent, I mean, how long has Joe Biden been he's been in like 50 years, right? Don Young's been in office as our congressman for 44 years or some crazy. I mean, at some point, you got to start asking the question, like, are they really in it for us or are they really in it for them? The citizen politician, the citizen statement, not a career, not the nouveau riche nobility, which is what we have today. All right, well, that's it for today, folks. We're out of time. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday, The Michael Duke Show. Be kind to one another. Love one another. Live well. Okay. Phone's ringing. Can I get Willie on here? Let's see. No. Here. I don't know what happened.
Well,
I tested this yesterday.
You know what that music means? It's time for the final.
And it's still not working. So I don't know what's happening. Okay. Well, we will we'll continue on. We'll continue on. Thanks, folks, for joining us. We're out of time for today. Will you post the prepared link? The prepared link for what, Sandy? Sandy's asking if I will post the prepared link. I'm not sure what she's got going on. Yeah, I miss Willie. I'm going to have to tear everything apart here. Anytime you're trying to make, anytime you have him try and make something better, it's not working. It always screws something up for the short term. All right. Well, he's got to run off to work now, so he's not going to call us back. All right. Well, we will be back. The emergency link. Oh, the preparedness link. Yeah, I'll do that later on today, Sandy. Sorry about that. I will do that. I will put that up. It's at alaska.gov. I'll get the link and we'll We'll throw it up there. All right, my friends. I mean it. Out of time now. We will see you. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm trying to make it better, man. I know it ain't broke, but it could always be better. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Or Monday. You know what I mean.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Thomas